You're scrolling through your phone at 11 at night, and Tyler texts you a photo of a truck he just leased. Caption says he's launching something big. You type back a fire emoji you don't mean. Meanwhile, 3 streets over, a garage door closes quietly and nobody claps. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. The businesses that actually pay a mortgage without a paycheck are never the ones anyone brags about at a barbecue. They're deliberately boring, deliberately unglamorous, and they're the fastest route into what I call the quiet position. Income nobody has to notice for it to actually keep working. Stay with me through this list, because the very last one isn't a business at all. It's the single decision that decides which of these actually make you free and which ones just quietly make you tired. Quick pause before we get into it. I'm Marcus, and for a while now I've been paying attention to the ordinary, unremarkable ways people quietly stop needing a paycheck. Not the loud ones. The ones you'd walk right past on any given Tuesday. I went looking at what actually holds up when the economy tightens, when people cut everything else first, and I kept running into the same 8 categories over and over. So we're going to go through them, counting backward, and I want you to notice the pattern that repeats in almost every single one, because by the end, that pattern is going to matter a lot more than any one business on this list, more than any single number I'm about to give you. Number 8, mobile pressure washing. Driveways, sidewalks, the siding on a house that's been collecting grime for years. You show up with a machine bolted to a trailer, and you charge by the job. Entry cost is modest, somewhere around a couple $1,000s for a decent used rig, and the income potential scales fast once you land a few property management companies instead of chasing one house at a time. Almost nobody wants to do this work because it's wet, loud, and takes a full weekend to build a route worth mentioning, which is why the person who sticks with it for 6 months stops having competition. That's the first piece of the pattern. Discomfort is the fence that keeps almost everyone else out. If you're finding this useful, this is a good moment to hit subscribe, because the list only gets more specific from here, and I don't want you missing the ones that actually fit your situation. Number 7, vending machine routes. You place machines in break rooms, laundromats, auto shops, locations nobody else bothered to ask about, and you collect and restock on a fixed schedule. The upfront cost is real, you're financing equipment, but once a route is built, the income arrives whether you show up in a good mood or not. The reason almost nobody does this seriously is that it looks like nothing. There's no pitch to give at a dinner party. It's a machine in a hallway, quietly doing its job, while everyone assumes it belongs to someone bigger than a single person working alone. And that assumption is exactly what keeps the route yours. Number 6, and here's that same pattern showing up again. Pet waste removal. It sounds almost embarrassing to say out loud, and that embarrassment is the entire business model. The barrier to entry is a truck, a scoop, and a stomach for a job most people would rather pay to avoid than do themselves. It's recurring almost automatically. The dog doesn't stop, so the service doesn't stop either, and once a client signs up, they rarely go back to doing it themselves. Number 5, holiday light installation. Homeowners want their house lit up for a few weeks a year and have zero interest in climbing a ladder in the cold to make it happen. You install in November, take it all down in January, and charge for both trips. It's seasonal, which scares most people off immediately. But the same person who wants their gutters lit up in December usually wants those same gutters cleared in the spring. So the smart operator pairs the two and stays busy through most of the year instead of just a few weeks of it. Seasonal doesn't have to mean scattered if you're paying attention to what the same client needs next. Before we keep going, if this is starting to click for you, subscribing means you'll catch the next list before it disappears into the feed, and there's a second one already coming that goes even further into this. Number 4, drain and sewer camera inspection. Every home inspector eventually finds a pipe nobody fully trusts, and instead of guessing, they send a small camera down the line to actually see what's happening inside it. It's a technical skill. Certification takes a matter of weeks, not years, and the equipment is the real investment here. Easily several $1,000s for a decent rig that most people never think to price out. But once you own it, a single inspection takes less than an hour and gets billed like a specialist visit, because nobody else in a 5-mile radius owns the same camera, and owning the only camera in town is worth more than owning the biggest truck. Number 3, mobile bike and small engine repair. lawnmowers, generators, e-bikes, small engines break constantly, and most people have no idea who to call when they do. You show up with a toolkit and a van, diagnose it in the driveway, and charge for the visit whether the job takes 10 minutes or 2 hours. The market for this grew quietly alongside the boom in e-bikes and backyard power equipment, and the numbers on that boom are public if you go looking, even though almost none of that demand is being served by anyone advertising for it directly. Most of these businesses grow entirely by referral, one satisfied neighbor at a time, which means the second year is almost always easier than the first, and the third year is easier again, without you spending a cent on marketing. Number 2, and this is the one I want you to pay close attention to, because it's about to flip everything I just told you. Portable storage container rental. You buy steel containers, drop them at a job site or a driveway during a renovation or a move, and charge by the month for as long as someone needs the space. On paper, it's the best number on this entire list. The income per container, once it's placed, is higher than almost anything else we've covered, which is exactly why Tyler went all in on it a while back, financed 6 containers at once, and told everyone at his cousin's wedding that he'd finally found his own boring gold mine. Here's what he didn't count on. The containers sat empty for months, waiting on customers he assumed would just show up once he owned the equipment. He was paying financing every single month on containers doing nothing, and the business that looked the most profitable on a spreadsheet turned out to be the one that actually required the most patience and the deepest cash cushion just to survive its own slow start. The biggest number on a list like this one is never the same thing as the easiest one to actually own, and that's a distinction almost nobody checks before they sign the financing paperwork. If you've made it this far, you're exactly who this channel is for, and subscribing costs you nothing but tells me to keep making these. So if that's you, go ahead and do that now, then keep watching, because what happens next actually changes how this ends. And that brings us to number 1, which isn't a business at all. It's the principle sitting underneath every single item on this list. The one thing that actually separates the person who quietly stops needing a paycheck from the person who just adds another side hustle to a pile of half-finished ones. It's recurring income over one-time income. Every item we just went through works because in some form, the client comes back without being chased, the dog still needs walking, the gutters still need clearing, the container still needs to sit there another month. The businesses that fail almost never fail because they were the wrong businesses. They fail because they were run like a series of one-off jobs, instead of a route you build once and then simply maintain, which is the exact same pattern we've been circling back to this entire list, item after item, without most people ever naming it out loud. There are 3 mistakes I keep seeing people make with lists exactly like this one. The first is picking a business off the profit margin instead of the actual demand where they live. It doesn't matter how well pressure washing pays in a city full of dusty siding if you live somewhere it rains most of the week, and nobody's siding ever gets dirty. Before spending a single dollar on equipment, spend a week just counting how many homes near you could plausibly already use the service, because that unglamorous research saves months of frustration later. The second mistake is competing on price the moment you start, which trains your very first clients to leave you the moment somebody cheaper shows up, when reliability, not price, was always the thing that actually let people charge more. And the third, the one that quietly kills more of these than anything else, is treating every job like it ends the day you finish it, instead of asking the only question that actually matters once the job is done: how do I turn this into something that pays me again next month, without me having to ask a second time? Now here's the part I skipped over on purpose. Remember number 2, the container business, the one with the best number on paper out of all 8? That's the one Tyler picked. And by now, 18 months in, it's also the one quietly costing him the most, not in dollars he can point to on a page, but in weekends, in patience, in the gap between the story he told at that wedding and the one he's actually living. The biggest number on the list was never the safest bet. It was just the loudest one, and loud was never the thing we were actually counting on this whole video. One more thing before we get to how this played out for 2 people who started at the same place. If you want the next list the moment it goes up, the subscribe button is right there, and it really is the only thing keeping this channel going. So which of these is actually right for you? If you're working with next to nothing to start, look at the ones that ask for your time before your money. pet waste removal, mobile repair, anything where the real investment is learning the trade, not buying equipment. If you've got a bit more saved and you're willing to wait longer to see it pay off, the container rental and the vending routes reward patience with equipment already in motion, once you actually understand the slow start that patience requires, and budget for it honestly. And if your actual strength isn't physical work but organizing people and staying on schedule, most of these can be run as a small crew instead of a solo route, once the first one is already paying for itself. None of this depends on the economy cooperating with you either. A dog still needs the yard cleared during a recession, and a pipe still clogs no matter what the market is doing. That's what makes a business boring, and it's also what makes it hold up when almost everything else doesn't. Let me tell you how this actually looked for two people I've been watching for a while now. Tyler and Rachel started at almost the exact same place, same age, same modest salary, from a job neither of them loved, same weekends free. Tyler read about the container business online, saw somebody's screenshot of monthly income, and decided that was his ticket out. He financed 6 containers before he'd ever placed a single one, because waiting felt like losing time he didn't have. For the first few months, he told everyone what he was building. He posted about it, answered questions about it at every gathering he went to, and believed, the way people usually believe when they've spent money before they've spent effort, that the hard part was already behind him. Rachel started the same month, with almost nothing, a truck she already owned, a few bags of supplies, and a flyer she put in a handful of mailboxes on her own street, offering to handle the one chore homeowners with dogs hate most. Nobody asked her about it at a barbecue. There was nothing to brag about, and she never brought it up first. She picked up 4 clients in the first 2 weeks, and instead of spending the income, she put almost every dollar of it back into gas money and more flyers, 3 streets over, then 5, then the next neighborhood entirely, then the one after that. A while later, Tyler still owns 6 containers. 2 of them have never been rented. He's still making the same financing payment every month on equipment that's mostly sitting in a field, and he's started telling people the business is seasonal, which is true, the way most excuses are technically true. He works a full-time job during the week and spends his weekends trying to sell space nobody's asking to rent, and the quiet resentment of that is starting to show up in conversations that used to just be about football, in the same way it always does when the story someone told everyone stops matching the story they're actually living. Rachel has dozens of weekly clients now, 2 part-time helpers who run half the route while she runs the other half, and she quietly quit her office job months ago, on an ordinary Tuesday, without telling anyone at work until she'd already trained her replacement. She still drives the same truck. Nobody watching her pull into a driveway would guess what her monthly income actually looks like, and that's exactly the point. She never needed anyone to guess. Morgan Housel wrote about this exact pattern in his book Same as Ever, this idea that boring, steady, repeatable money almost always beats exciting money over a long enough timeline, because exciting money depends on being right about something dramatic, and boring money only depends on you continuing to show up. Tyler wasn't lazy. He wasn't unintelligent. He just bet on the version of the story that sounded better out loud, instead of the version that actually compounds when nobody's watching. And by now, that difference is the entire distance between the two of them. I think about this every time somebody asks me why I never talk about the businesses that sound exciting. It's not that they don't work. Sometimes they do. It's that the version of you who needs everyone to know what you're building is usually the same version who spends money to look further along than you actually are. And that spending is exactly what slows the whole thing down. Rachel never had that problem, because she never needed the audience in the first place. That's the whole difference between the quiet position and just looking like you're already in one. If any of these 8 surprised you, or if you already know someone quietly running one of them without anyone around them realizing it, that's worth sitting with for a minute. The businesses on this list were never the interesting part. The decision to stay boring long enough for it to start paying you back, that's the part that actually matters. And it's the same decision waiting for you the next time something unglamorous crosses your path, and you're tempted to look away from it, instead of picking it up and actually starting.